Hello and good evening, each and every one of you crypto watchers all over the continent of Africa and in the world. My name is Stone, and you are watching Empire Crypto TV, and welcome.
Reaching a pivotal moment as the US and European allies tried desperately to defuse the situation through diplomacy. Russia continues to fling accusations of military action by Kiev against the separatist regions in Ukraine.
Putin came into this crisis putting out demands that he knew that Ukraine, NATO, and the United States could not meet.
Russian state media accused the Ukrainian military of shelling separatist areas of the Donbass. In response to the tensions, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken changed plans in order to talk at the United Nations.
We've been warning the Ukrainian government of all that is coming. And here today, we are laying it out in great detail with the hope that by sharing what we know with the world, we can influence Russia to abandon the path of war and choose a different path while there's still time.
President Biden also cut short his visit to Ohio in part due to the situation in Ukraine.
The reason they tell me I've got to head out, I hadn't planned on going immediately, is because of weather going back to Washington. And there's a little thing going on in Europe right now.
Financial markets reacted to the tensions as well. The ruble weakened against the dollar, and European stocks saw small drops.
We've been in this slippery slope of going downward in terms of just normal diplomatic conduct now for several years. This is just the latest chapter in that very sad story.
A denial of service attack disrupted Ukrainian government websites earlier in the week, which also raised the level of concern in the country of a potential attack.
The first thing that is going to be the leading edge of an attack is going to be cyber. So think of what happened yesterday as a bit of a warm-up there. I continue to think it's a 3 in 4 chance that Putin will end up going forward with an invasion.
Well, as we heard it from the people themselves, Putin could go out ahead with an invasion. To think of it, this is a very tricky situation that is happening up in the West, up in Europe, and it is affecting the global markets. As you heard, the final gentleman that he has brought out the statement that the ruble has also plummeted in terms of because of this crisis that is about to unfold or is going to be prevented from being unfolded. It depends whether the diplomatic talks that are being conducted in the Kremlin will have some sort of effect, and hopefully people get out of the idea that we could be having or heading for a war. For a war zone, which is something that everyone doesn't want at this point in time. Even the market itself, even the cryptocurrency itself, it was affected in such a bad way because it took a heavy hit in the last day or so. Even yesterday, I have a breakout, a bearish breakout. Before this, there was a support and resistance in between $41,000 up to something like $44,000, just below $45,000. But all of a sudden, all of that is lost because of this rumors of wars that are happening between Ukraine and Russia. But to further understand the conflict, you must understand the parties that are involved. Who is NATO? What is happening? Why is it Russia? Because Russia is right next to Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin is trying to cover up the spot. But let's try and also see other articles, what they are saying about this, because we thought that there could be talks of peace, but there weren't there is no certainty because eventually, a small village has been attacked in the Ukraine border. Okay, there's an article that came out that says Russia-Ukraine crisis live updates as per U.S. estimates. Russia may have amassed up to 190,000 personnel near Ukraine borders. Now that's a higher number than what it was before, because the article continues to say Russia-Ukraine crisis. The US now estimates that Russia probably has amassed between 169,000 to 190,000 soldiers just by the Ukraine borders, personnel in and near Ukraine up from 100,000. So there is more soldiers coming in than soldiers having to leave. Because there was a story that, okay, Putin said that, he will not attack the Ukraine, but you hear articles that are coming out now. They are saying a different story regarding this situation. He's the reports say that he added more 100,000 troops on January 30th, just a month ago, or almost a month ago, said Michael Carpenter, the permanent U.S. representative to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, in addition to troops along the border in the neighboring Belarus and Crimea. He said the estimates include Russian-led forces in eastern Ukraine and also internal security units deployed to these areas. It was unclear if these forces were included in the most recent estimate of 150,000 troops. So, global investors, global traders are quite skeptic of what is happening in Ukraine, because also the news came out on Wall Street is struggling to make decisions, amongst investors, among traders. Remember now, when you talk about Wall Street, in Manhattan, United States, New York, you're talking about the financial center of the world having to have that standstill because of what's happening in the Ukraine border. I've been following these stories for the whole week now, and this is the latest that has come forth. Wall Street struggles for direction as Ukraine worries lingers. So there are worries. So you have this thing of traders not participating or investors. You'll end up with that sideways trend, that uncertainty. But this is fundamentally speaking. There is no, even the US stock here right there on the corner is taking a knock with the red signs that's showing that the market is having a bearish market at this point in time. Not only just the crypto market, but also the US 500, Dow Jones, S&P 500, and also other cryptocurrencies as well. US stocks struggled for direction on Friday as investors kept a wary eye on building tensions in Ukraine heading into a long weekend. So this weekend will be interesting, finding out how will it what will happen on the weekend. It's interesting what will happen on the weekend because nobody really knows how will it also affect the market. Come Monday morning, things can be different, especially for the forex market. But for the cryptocurrency market, the market continues also on the weekend. That's the difference right there between the cryptocurrencies and the forex market, or the stock market for that matter. Western powers warned that Russia's military build-up around Ukraine was continuing, and an invasion was possible at any time. Like the video that I just showed you, man, there is that worrying effect that the Russian troops could. I think they have also attacked. Seeing some images, the small village in Crimea has also been reportedly to be attacked, but I don't know if it's that initial attack as of yet, but it's not clear for now. While Russia-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine said they planned to evacuate residents. So one person says the one thing, the other says the other. Nothing is quite clear. And this can cause a lot of skepticism within the market itself, within the investors, within the traders who are participating, whether in the stocks or in the forex markets and so forth. Headlines around escalating tensions between Moscow and the West over Russia's conflict with Ukraine have rattled markets this week, putting the main indexes on tracks for their second straight weekly losses. So 2 weekly losses. They are taking a hit, I must say, on the stock market as well, because I can just do but you hear like there is the US stocks are quite surviving. Not the US stock, I mean the US dollar is quite surviving, it's quite doing well. Looking at the charts just a little bit, just to do a review, just waiting for the data to show itself, but just to show you the market trend that is shown. Okay, you have the US dollar against the Japanese yen, which is all the way in the east. The US dollar has been performing during this time of this uncertainty between the Russia and Ukraine crisis. So the dollar has been performing against other currencies, even against the Canadian dollar itself, which I will show later on based on the story that also I will uncover about Canada itself, because Canada, they are also having their own issues regarding COVID-19. But let us look at, and I'm looking also at the Google stocks, but now looking at the other side, just look at the US dollar against the Japanese yen. But if you look at charts like the Google stock, taking a heavy hit, a heavy hit. And but the gold, on the other hand, they're thriving. Gold and the dollar thriving. Look at those candlesticks. The dollar is the gold is thriving alongside with the dollar. Quite something interesting to see. So the more the crisis continues, between the tension between the Ukraine and the US dollar, between Ukraine and Russia, the US dollar and the gold shows that they will stay in favor for a very for some time, not for a very long time, I don't think. But let us also understand the conflict of what's happening. Why is it Russia has anything against NATO? Now let us understand who is NATO. They are also a central figure in this conflict. NATO represents, okay, let us understand NATO. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is an international alliance that consists of 30 member states from North America and Europe. It was established at the signing of North Atlantic Treaty on 4 April 1949 article. Now, this is a time after the fall of the Soviet Union, which is now known as the Russian Republic today. Okay, so Russia initially is sort of like enemies with NATO from back in the day since 1949. So NATO has 30 country member states that are from North America and North Europe. Let us continue. Article 5 of this treaty states that if an armed attack occurs against one of the member states, it shall be considered an attack against all members, and other members shall assist the attacked member with armed forces. Remember back in 2004, 2001, when America or the World Trade Center was attacked, many of the countries that supported America on going to war against the Arabic nations like Iraq and Afghanistan, they were all part of NATO. One country like NATO, if one country NATO, like one of them is Canada, if one of them gets attacked, all of these other 29 countries will help that state to alleviate the enemy or to fight against the particular enemy, which is a very strong claim if you think about it. Of the 30 member countries, 2 are located in North America, Canada, and so forth. Okay, let me just show you these 13 member countries. These are the member countries that are available in NATO. So all of these countries make NATO: Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, all of them, all 30 of them. But out of all of these 30 countries, none of them is Russia or Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia are not part of NATO. Russia is a former Soviet Union, so they used to be against these 30 states. After the fall of Soviet Union, they took over the Russia. So what's happening is back in Europe, now you have Russia on the other side, you have Ukraine on the other side, and Ukraine is not the member of the 30 member state of NATO. And now NATO plans to take Ukraine under the wing as part of the 30 member state, make it maybe the 31st country of NATO. But Russia doesn't want that and doesn't want the NATO troops going in Ukraine. So this is the conflict right there. So Vladimir Putin is fighting and saying, you know what, I don't want NATO troops near the borders of Russia. It's a threat to my nation as a country, USSR, the Republic of Russia. You know, okay, there are other articles as well. This is the NATO flag that is represented, the NATO and the Ukraine-Russia crisis, 5 key things to know. Okay, now let us try and understand the nature of NATO itself. What is NATO to Russia? Okay, but Western leaders, okay, what is NATO and why was it formed? Okay, this is the reason why the NATO was formed, just to give you a little bit of education behind this whole conflict that we are seeing unfolding. The alliance was initially part of an effort by the US and its European allies to deter any expansion of the then Soviet Union, USSR, which is Russia today, and reduce the possibility of conflict on the continent by encouraging greater political integration between its powers. So they are sort of like a force for good against the USSR. That was back in the day. In the decades since, it has steadily expanded its orbit, bringing a swathe of Central and Eastern European states, as we see 30 of them from North America to North Europe, okay, states into its ranks after the USSR collapsed. USSR apparently was a powerful force to reckon with back in those days, and they were defeated eventually. After they were defeated, NATO rose after the USSR. This enlargement has troubled Moscow right now. They're in trouble with an enlargement of NATO. Maybe there were a few countries before 30 of them. Now there's 30 of them. So now NATO is planning to bring Ukraine under the wing, which is wary. Okay, this enlargement has troubled Moscow, which is wary of the Brussels headquartered alliance edging over closer to its borders and hemming it in from the west. So they're quite close. Which countries are members of the NATO's? Okay, I've just shared that with you. The 30 of them, one of them, United States, is leading Joe Biden. You know, he's the one just leading everything. And what does this do to the market? This is what happens to the market because there is lack of uncertainty. I can tell you, even Binance coin, the BNB coin, the native coin for the Binance exchange, smaller coins, stocks, currencies, but only the dollar looks to be thriving. But I'm not sure about other currencies, how they are doing as well at this in this situation right now. Let me just let the data reveal. Quite hectic week, I must say, because of these news. Nor does it only affect just the market itself, but also it affects the entire world as individuals. So it's also important to learn that things might change, anytime soon. So we gotta be ready, man. Even back in the day, I don't know if people were aware. Did they even receive a warning before World War II began? After World War One, it was devastating times. Wars are not good. Even swings. Another example to show that human devastation brings negativity into the market. Let us look at the coronavirus situation, the lockdowns. The business had to close. Imagine now war has to come in. The business don't have to close this time. The businesses will be destroyed, and that brings a lot of skepticism through the market, through everyone who is involved in the market. So look at the BNB, it fell all the way down to 398. Also trying to climb back now. As you can see, the BNB also has this, I put an RSI, which has an occurrence. Now, my only hope about the coming weekend is me looking at the RSI. Why do I say that? The RSI represents the buying power and the selling power. At this point in time right now, I'm looking at the relative strength index right at this most recent. This is a 1 hour chart that I'm looking at. Here at this point in time, it was oversold, or the BNB, even cryptocurrencies as a whole, all have an oversold RSI right there, which is at 19. Now let us just read a little bit of the RSI. RSI, you must understand that it is a critical indicator to indicate the buying power and the selling power of a particular instrument, whether it be cryptocurrencies, whether it be stocks, whether it be forex or currencies and so forth. Overbought, a situation in which prices have no, that's not the one. Okay, all right. An RSI of 30 or less is taken as a signal that the instrument may be oversold. So I'm looking at the cryptocurrencies right now. They have reached a point of being oversold. When it's oversold, it's cheap. And when it's cheap, people are looking to come in. So this weekend might be a time for people to dive into the market, might show some favorable bullish trends for the for the weekend. But Monday things may change. Okay, so if someone is trading within the cryptocurrency space, you should be careful. It's a situation where you come in and then you go out again, depending whether you are buying or selling, because the volatility right now is not certain, because as you can see, the market is quite sideways. When you see small candlesticks like it's forming, it shows that there's lack of volatility. And when there's lack of volatility, it shows that there's no much buying or selling happening in the market at this point in time. So it's not looking good for someone to come in, because someone might just not get as much as they want, because the market is the way it is and it stands still. As well, looking at the coin market cap, the overall rating of all cryptocurrencies, I'm looking at the market cap for 24 hours, just below 2 trillion at 1.8. It was, I think, a bit lesser than this before. I think yesterday 1.7 or so, but now it has sort of increased. But the normal one, the normalized one, is 2 trillion and something market cap. That is the one that we're familiar since 2021, last year. That bullish market that came about where the Bitcoin went up to as far as almost $70,000 per coin. Now today we have a coin that is resting on $40,000 per coin, and having losses of 7.44%. And also the Ethereum, the entire market landscape is affected by these things that are happening. This is not a technical issue, but a fundamental issue of war zones, rumors of war, threats, uncertainties, political this, political that. But, at the same time, looking at the market and looking at the political sphere, there are times when leaders can play a role in the front and act as if like things are in a certain way while they are controlling things in a certain way behind the scenes. Because looking at the Bitcoin and other stocks are falling, and maybe could be a plan to say, you know what, we are trying to control the market by just creating these stories of wars and showing people, because media is a very powerful thing, because there's many ways that you can control people's mind. You can show me images and talk about wars, but leaders maybe they're just chilling and say, you know what, they are trying to manipulate certain things in a certain way. And one of them, most certainly, it is the financial markets at this point in time. Looking at coin market cap as well, it is also looking very, very unhealthy, and that is not a nice image to look at. Hopefully this weekend things might well. But of course, looking at other news as well, there are also crises happening in North America, Canada. Truckers, and as you know, they've been protesting for days and about not taking vaccines, and it looks like now the president of Canada is looking out for police officers to reinforce themselves and show themselves that, you know what, They are the authority, and they are the ones who are going to govern the country the way they should. Okay, there's the story right there. Canadian police begin major operation to clear the capital city of protesters and their convoys. It's a large convoy that connects the United States and Canada itself, and it's used for logistics means to transport major goods, and it's a very powerful or most effective route that you can have between Canada and the United States. And the story goes on to say Canadian police began. Okay, sorry, I don't know what's happening with this image. Okay, Canadian police began an unprecedented operation this Friday, to remove protesters and their trackers. And
rowdy backdrop for these protests obscures a threat the Canadian officials.
Sorry. So this is the image how it looks like, and these are police officers apparently are just putting in pressure on these truck drivers that are parked on protest. Frustration grows as protests enter third week. This has been a third week. It's almost a month. These protesters, they just fighting for the fact that they don't want to get vaccinated, and it has raised a major concern within the Canadian government itself. Going down, Canadian police began an unprecedented operation Friday morning, removing protesters and their trucks and stuff. The operation includes city, provincial, and federal law enforcement and so forth. It's a very, very hasty situation. But now I also wonder as well, like if like you are someone like who is in those regions, and how would you feel if like people like were just parked, and they're causing congestion. It's hard now to be a normal citizen in that situation. You're trying to get your life going. You want to go to school or want to go to work. You want to do your own normal life. But, things are stopped because people feel like freedom has been taken away from them because they don't want to get vaccinated, and they feel like they've been forced to take on this vaccination. But these people are saying, no, we don't want to be vaccinated, and we are going to park our trucks there and just show that we are going to fight for our freedom against the enforcement of being vaccinated. So fellow Canadians are facing a very difficult time, and others, those people who've been on the trucks. And yeah, it's been a very difficult time for them. And looking at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, but still, even the US dollar against the Canadian dollar has been strong in this past few hours and a day. I think just want to pull up a chart. I don't know if I'm looking at the daily chart, of course. The US dollar was looking extremely strong against the Canadian dollar here at this. Okay, no, this. I'm looking for the Canadian US dollar market. All right, let me just pull up one. Canadian dollar US market. Canadian dollar US market is the one. This is the gold market. I don't know why it changed like that. I just set it up so that it can show the US dollar market. But these, charts can also be complicating. They can show themselves. They can be pretty slow. Just want to look at the US dollar Canadian dollar exchange. How is looking? How the chart looks like? Where is it? I need this chart now, man. Need to show the audience like what's happening here. Okay, JPY Canadian. Okay, there we go. Just want this chart. This is the chart that I've been looking for. Now, look at that Canadian dollar. The dollar is the base currency, and the base currency is the representation of this is the representation of a base currency. The base currency means that if this trend goes down, the base currency is getting weak. If the trend goes up, the base currency is getting strong. At this point in time, the base currency is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. Right now, I'm looking at the 1-day chart. This is a 1-day chart, and this is a 1-day candlestick right there, which shows that the base currency is winning right now. The base currency being the US dollar, and that's the scenario right now, which means the Canadian dollar is losing strength because maybe slowly but surely, who knows what this event could lead up to. Things are changing in the world. Things are taking another turn. You have wars or threats of wars that are happening in the West, or in Russia and then the Ukraine. You have now in Canada, just in the north of America, that there are people who are protesting against vaccination. It's a very, very turbulent time. We don't know how it will affect the market in the coming weeks, because these are big news, and the big news do affect the market, and that's what will happen. Okay, let us look at where you guys located. Okay, okay, there's a comment that came out. Wow, some pictures can be shocking. Okay, where you guys are located. We are located in Johannesburg, Central CBD. That's where we are located. And thank you very much for asking that questions. Have a good weekend, crypto listeners, crypto watchers all over. This is Empire Crypto TV, and do remember that you must always try invite a friend and share the live show, please, and always be sure to subscribe and win with Empire Crypto TV. This has been a good evening. Thank you very much for being with me on Empire Crypto TV tonight. If you are in Africa, anywhere else in the world, I don't know what time it is. I don't know what time zone you are in. So thank you very much, and good night and goodbye.